I was going to say this isn't dystopia warning, but today has proven that there's very much still a need for dystopia warnings, hasn't it?
Yes, yes, it really has. The dystopia warning that you had to do when the Tories were in power is still necessary because the Tories are still in power. Why do you still support them?
I mean, right, okay. I want to precede us watching this by at least saying, there is it's one thing to have ignored criticism of Labour in the run up to the election, supported them, voted for them, and then when they get into government, get angry with the bad things that they do and talk about how angry you are, right? That's one thing, and we can say that we told these people so, and we can say you should have listened to us, and all of those things will be true. But at least they have the integrity to call shit shit. They have the integrity to look at a spade and call it a spade, right?
Okay,
Whereas,
all right, but the problem with that is she's admitting, oh, this is shit. I'm calling shit shit, but I'm still going to swim in the shit. She's still a member of the party. She's still supporting them. I mean, I'm sorry that you have to take this on. Then this is your fucking policy too.
I mean, that is also true. But regardless of whether or not that they stay in the party whilst being at least critical of the things that are bad, at the very least, this is much better. This is superior in terms of the Labour shills who've just completely fucking ignored it, which a lot of them have done. They've just completely ignored it and been tweeting about Tesla and Elon Musk because now that the Red Party are in charge, they've forgotten about the UK because it's about virtue signalling about how right on they are rather than the utility of the policy that happens in the governments that they elect. Or even worse are the people who have bought into Labour's framing on this because whatever the red team says goes, and no matter how right-wing they are, they'll just parrot the party line because they will happily let their views be changed by the zeitgeist because they have no moral or ethical underpinning of the positions that they hold. So it may be bad to still be a Labour member whilst being critical of them, but it's even worse to ignore it or be completely uncritical supporter.
See, you're way nicer than me. You're a nicer human being, and I say that entirely as a criticism.
To put it mildly. Now, the reason I'm giving you an update and I haven't got my usual fluff, stuff to look at, memes, etc., is because I'm recording this off the cuff because I'm actually due to go on holiday. My first holiday since 2018, before the bad event, Q 2020 flashbacks. Enjoy your, moment. Have one. Sorry, on today of all days, there's not really the need to encourage pandemic reminiscing, is there? There is enough horror, frankly. Safe to say I am livid at what was announced by Labour today.
I'm livid by the fact that you're spelling it like an American. What is this fucking lack of you in the word Labour?
TikTok automatically sets the auto captions to English, US English.
This is unacceptable. This is unacceptable.
I am livid at what was announced by Labour today. I didn't want, any silence or absence to be seen as tacit compliance or agreement with what they have done, because it is indefensible. It's just...
Okay, it's indefensible and you don't want to be complicit with this. So I presume you're leaving the party then?
I mean, one would hope so. I mean, Madge put out a video, which I'll link in the description, talking about how even her and Graham Hughes were kind of talking about how that Labour had failed them, which is, again, buyer's remorse. It's just frustrating, again, because literally every single day in the run-up to the election, we were just pointing out constantly this is what they were going to be like, Yep. I've seen loads of people legitimately say, but I didn't think they were going to do this. I've been lied to. And I was just like, well, you may have not have seen, but they did say, Liz Kendall did talk about no one getting a free pass and everyone who can work will work, and we will take measures to do that, and there was going to be a tough look at the welfare system. They did say they were going to be like this. The current Chancellor of the Exchequer said they want to be tougher on benefits than the Tories in 2014, tougher than George Osborne, right? It's not like there wasn't the signs that were there, you just ignored them.
Yeah.
It's pretty poor timing that they chose to start shooting the poor. you know, and I'm about to go off on a short break, as opposed to my usual breakdowns that occur at home. Everything about this has been despicable, from the briefings that absolutely did happen, because that's precisely how it works. There are people out there trying to defend it, trying to claim that this is all the big bad press. I mean, the press are feral, click-obsessed psychopaths, but they don't pluck it out of the air. And if you don't believe me, Google the dark arts. If the press isn't briefed by number 10, then it will just look at what the Tories were proposing to do and draw comparisons, although I imagine there wasn't that much of a comparison on this particular occasion. Of all the policy to drip feed, this was not the policy to drip feed. People have been worried sick for weeks about this, and it has a real life impact on people who are struggling with life limiting disability, with conditions that affect their everyday life, some of which may be psychological and worse.
If I don't know, because I haven't pre-watched this, but if her criticism is just they shouldn't have got people worried and not this policy is abhorrent, then she hasn't changed in the slightest.
Reasonable.
I'm just going to put that out there now. I will wait and see what the end goal or the summation of this is.
Worsened by this kind of behaviour. I have friends on benefits, I have family members that need to claim incapacity benefit, I have friends with severe disability that will be impacted by this. I have conditions myself that, if I was claiming benefits, would be impacted by this. There is absolutely no part of me that is in agreement with it, and I will aim to get something out before I go off on holiday, but I just want to make it perfectly clear that I find it absolutely contemptible on every level that the priority of this government is apparently, you know, shagging a good headline out of the Daily Mail and giving more fuel to the voters that absolutely do not respect them and will never vote for them because they're buying the con of Farage. Whilst
What the fuck? When they were when they were trot hunting, when they told the left they weren't welcome in the party, like, what did you think they were doing then? He's been doing this for fucking years and years. He gave up on any semblance of his progressive pledges that got him elected leader. Did you think that was just what he was doing that for the lols? Like, this is exactly what he is. This is exactly what this government was always going to be.
Literally.
Yeah.
He's literally said the door is open and you can leave. Rachel Reeves was speaking to Charlie State on BBC Breakfast, and when questioned about, well, would you consider, instead of doing things, would you rather tax the rich? And Rachel Reeves was like, if people want to vote for taxing the rich, they can vote for a different party. And I'm like, yeah, I fucked off and I voted for a different party. Also, thank you, JFK Rotting, for the raiding party of 48. Welcome into the stream. Thank you very much for the cat emotes. Those are adorable. I appreciate it. I'm NoJusticeMTG. I'm a socialist from the UK. I talk about UK politics from a left-wing perspective 6 days a week. If that sounds like your thing, please consider dropping a follow over on Twitch. That's free. It's also free to subscribe to YouTube at NoJusticeMTG as well. I am here with Kevin Logan, also a socialist, also from the UK, also streams most days of the week. Go follow at KFLogan1875 over on Twitch, as well as at Ploppy111 over on the YouTubes. Everyone in my chat, please go and follow JFK_rotting over on Twitch for some excellent political content. Thank you very much for the raid. Please refresh your screens and click that follow button, because then you get to hear Ash Sarkar say that.
Yeah. JFK rotting. Too soon. He's only been rotting for 60 years. You're out of order. Did you see that Trump's going to release the JFK files or whatever?
The ones that are already released. They've already been declassified, right?
I don't know. But I mean, I hope it just comes out that it's all like the official story was true. Because I want the conspiracy theorists to go mental and go, see, they even had to go back in time and put all of the original files in there to make it look like it was Lee Harvey Oswald. Like, you know what I mean? I can't wait to see fucking Alex Jones start going on about the time-travelling pot-bellied pygmies, you know, and all that shit.
Simultaneously giving fuel to all the people in different factions on the left who said this was going to happen all along, and making a mockery of the people with disability.
Supertanskii. Like, it's not adding fuel to these people who said this was what was going to happen. We've just been proven correct. Like, you're acting as though this was like the strategic blunder that's allowed us to claim victory, rather than just the fact that we were fucking right. Like,
Yeah, just
maybe this isn't all fucking a game of 5D chess. Maybe we had a correct assessment of the kind of politics represented by Starmer and the Politburo and Morgan McSweeney, and you just didn't pay attention, and you're a rube who got conned, and it's fine. All of us go through periods where we are rubes who get conned. I'm the very same. I voted for fucking Nick Clegg, right? I can't talk.
That's an even bigger Al. Jesus.
Literally, I can't talk about being conned like a rube in that regard, right? But to try and then backtrack to save face by saying that it was a 5D chess game that happened to work out in our favour, that's mega cope. Also want to explain for the new raiders in the stream, we are currently covering the backlash to proposed cuts to disability welfare from the current Labour government in the UK, which is taking £5 billion away from explicitly the sick and disabled as part of their cuts to try and fund military expenditure, literally taking from the poor to give to arms manufacturers.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. This is the thing, though. She has to make it into some weird, like you say, 5D chess game. No, we were just right. You just have to take the L. You just have to admit we were fucking right. It's just correct analysis. It's not like a moral thing. It's not a moral failing to be wrong about something. You were just wrong and we were correct. And that might seem like I'm rubbing it in because I am. But, like, also, I was right and you were wrong, and I'm just rubbing it in further. And someone should really interrupt me at this point.
And again, there would be...
They voted for...
Sorry, go on.
And again, there would literally be no skin off her nose if you just said, unfortunately, they were right and I was wrong, and I admit that, fair play. And the rest of us would just go, yeah, sure, fair enough. You've had the humility. You've had the humility to admit that you got conned, and you will adjust your views in future. But again, there's motivated reasoning to assume that it's 5D chess rather than the reality of the politics represented by the Labour right. That she doesn't believe exists, by the way. She thinks there's such a thing as the Labour right, which is hilarious to me. Also, thank you, Jack Miller, for the 4.99 super chat. I saw her tweet about getting annoyed at us lefties saying we told you so, and well, we did tell you so. Also, she tweeted out, or she retweeted somebody, they might have been also English, saying
of course.
Saying that we told you so to the people who voted for Trump when they do bad things. I'm like, well, can people say they told you so or not?
Yeah,
it's kind of fine when you do it, but not when other people do it.
Yeah, and I will. I mean, look, again, you're a nicer person than me. You might go, yeah, no, that's okay, fine, and move on. I am going to flex. I'm just a bad person, and I say that entirely as a compliment to myself.
For them in the vain hope that they would be something better, but instead we have careered back into 2010, pig fucker Cameron territory, albeit with absolutely shattered public services, no social care, no care.
So would you say that actually it was you who was the Tory enabler? Curious.
I do think I hope you don't mind me just adding something, but
go for it.
I do hope this gives a lot of people in this country some inward perspective in how we think about disabled people. I think a lot of people are starting to admit now that they know people who are on disability benefits, or maybe they've had that themselves in the past. There's been quite a lot of shame, I think, in this country around that, when it's actually way more common than we think. And I hope it becomes a more unifying thing against policies like this, that people,
I hope
argue that case.
Yeah, I hope so. But my faith in humanity, as described earlier in the stream, is dead.
Yeah,
that's the problem, right? It's that my assumption for a lot of time post-pandemic would be that us understanding the concept of being a key worker in the wake of these people getting us through the pandemic, and the clanging of the pots and the pans and the clapping for the NHS would have gotten people to recognize the value of the people on the bottom rung of the ladder, and they just fucking instantly went out the window as soon as 2023 rolled around.
Yeah,
that is true.
I need to step away for just a second. Can you say hello to everyone for 2 minutes?
Also, I want to point out for people who are joining, I introduced Kevin and forgot to talk because you've not spoken for ages, Phil. We also have one of my chatters who've joined in the conversation as well, who is not a content creator, but they are a civil servant who works in the Department for Work and Pensions. And for Americans who've joined us, that is the people who administer things like welfare and the state pension, which is of course a welfare payment as well. Actually, fuck it, rant time. Whilst we're here, I'm gonna have a bit of a rant. I've seen loads of people on social media getting angry at the idea of people describing the state pension as a benefit, which it absolutely 100% is. People have got it into their mind because national insurance contributions are a qualifier. Those are the things you have to have enough payment years of to be able to qualify for some level of state pension. That means that's you paying into a pot that then pays you back out the state pension. This is not how the fucking state pension works, right? You're not paying into a pot. Just because it qualifies you for that, it doesn't mean that those payments are what you've paid in. A national insurance is a general payroll tax as part of general taxation that pays for current pensions, right? The pensions that are getting paid out at the moment are a part of the benefit system, what we used to call social security, right? But essentially they renamed it to be benefits, or rather than welfare or social security, so they could essentially try and delineate between the good ones, pensions, and the bad ones, which is the benefits, which is welfare for the unemployed or the disabled or the sick, you know? But just because you've changed the name and because you've tried to obfuscate the reality, it doesn't change the fact that all the state pension is incapacity benefit for people who are too old that they can't work, right? Your disability that you're essentially getting paid a pension for is that you're too old. That is your work incapability, is that we have judged you to be too old to have to work. And that's fine. It's a good thing that we have a state pension. It's a good thing that it's triple locked. And it's a good thing that people receive this benefit. But because we've trained through media propaganda to see benefits and social security as being a bad thing, and the people who engage in the usage of them, the people who need them to survive, we've described them as being the scroungers versus the skivers, the parasites and the leeches of the system, the hard workers have to pay for, right? We have essentially created a system where we've forgotten that that's also the case with pensioners too. So we've taken them out of the social security system, which is what it is. It is just social security. Everyone who tries to treat the pension like an entitlement doesn't understand that if the government wanted to take away your state pension, they could fucking do that tomorrow if they wanted. Now, it wouldn't pass through the Lords. They would need a manifesto commitment to do that. But any government could do that. And every single penny you've paid in national insurance, there's not a pot that you can claim out of later because it's currently being paid by current taxpayers. And they want you to forget this.
Yeah.
There is a political incentive for the people who currently receive pensions to make everybody else forget that it's paid for by current taxation, so that they can imply that they don't actually have to care about the material interests of the people who are increasingly seeing higher taxes. And we've got the highest level of overall taxation as a percentage of GDP since the Second World War in this country, and a large proportion of that is the aging population with a high pension bill. But because people who are pensioners feel entitled rather than privileged to have access to a state pension as part of the social security system, they think that any amount of reduction in there, whether it be winter fuel payment or removal of the triple lock, as being something that's taken away that they are entitled to, rather than something that we, as taxpayers, as working people, as people who are the ones who fund the remainder of the system, broadly, of course, government spending is paid for from the government through money creation. It's not actually paid for by taxes, but the taxes control the overall money supply, so it's similar in that regard. At the very least, that productive capacity is necessary to be able to have a pension contribution in the first place. But unless you admit that it's a benefit paid for by current taxpayers, you can completely ignore our concerns. Because again, I think it's good. I want to pay taxes. I want to have a welfare system and a social security system that protects the people in our old age. But the more that those pension claimants refuse to engage in our concerns and the things that are necessary for us to be able to survive, whether it's welfare or good jobs or work-life balance or being able to work from home, all of these things that working people who are the contributors to productive capacity that makes us afford the state pension in the first place, right? Unless you take that into account, you are going to get to the point where there will be a revolt from taxpayers against pensioners to take away your treats that you've got as a result of the social security system that I support. Okay?
Yep.
So if you're a pensioner who's watching this, if you're somebody who does qualify for the state pension, give us some fucking slack. I don't want you to lose your pension. I think it was bad you lost your winter fuel allowance. I think the social security system is a good thing. But first of all, what you have to do is recognise that you're in the same position as every disabled person in being a recipient of state welfare and social security, and B, at least be somewhat grateful for the fact that there are people out there who go to work to ensure that our system can survive by also paying out your triple lock state pension. If it wasn't for us, you wouldn't be able to do that. Some reciprocity in the state of the country would be nice. Because again, at no point am I saying that you should have any of this taken away. I just want you to act at least somewhat grateful, if that would be nice.
Can we replace the national anthem with whatever that was?
You'd be very fucking welcome to.
Let's go.
Any of the stuff that Labour left behind when they left office last time. No, we have got a bomb site, and we have got people being forced to now jump through ever more challenging hoops just to get a little bit of support, having already endured 14 years of abject fucking misery, and the patronising delivery of it, painting this as some kind of moral crusade, as a bunch of people in John Lewis suits stand there on 91k a year plus expenses telling poor people, well, you're just going to have to suck it up, when they could be taxing the wealthiest people in this country. But
now, this is where you don't have any excuse, because they absolutely ruled that out during the general election campaign. The general election campaign that you were very enthusiastic for, and that you thought everyone should go and vote for Labour. And they strictly said, we have these fucking rules, we're not going to tax rich people. So I don't know exactly what happened. I don't know why you would remotely expect them to now do so when they promised you they wouldn't do so.
And again, this isn't lefties like predicting this would what they would be doing or not doing, right? This isn't us being the oracles predicting this and trying to say we told you so. This is the words of Rachel Reeves. Again, when asked by Charlie Stay, why won't you tax the rich? She said, if you want taxes for the rich, you should vote for somebody else. Guess who was proposing taxation on the rich during the election? It was the Green Party, and you told people not to vote for them. You told them to vote for Labour, who were telling you they weren't going to do this. And now you're getting frustrated at the idea that they're not doing the thing that they were explicit in saying they weren't going to do after you told people not to vote for the party that said they were actually going to do it.
Yeah.
Also, as an aside, very good point from Ben Sharp in chat, that the same pensioners who want to maintain the triple lock, as I also want to maintain it because I want to have a good social security system, are also the same ones who want to reduce migration, which would reduce the productive capacity of the working age population. So there'll be fewer working age because there'll be fewer working age people in the country, want to therefore reduce migration and therefore make it even higher taxation on what few working people there would be left if we didn't have migration.
Yeah.
Very funny.
It feels like
Let's face it.
It feels like the plates that they're trying to spin right now, which is obviously the pension budget is pretty big, and they're thinking, right, well, let's just basically pull more labor force from people who are sick and disabled, because they don't want to address the fact that we need immigration.
Yeah, like even if you got every disabled person into work, right, that wouldn't be a long-term solution for the incredibly top-heavy population pyramid we have in this country.
Yeah, there's just generally just, I mean, really, not like in a negative way, but there's just too many pensioners. There's not enough working people to pay for every single pension. Like, the funds just should come from somewhere else. We shouldn't be like trying to fund the pension by taking it away from disabled people.
Exactly, you're absolutely right. And that's the thing is that I thought that Aaron Bassani was going about the numbers. I think in the last 50 years, the number of pensioners has increased by like factors of 10. Like that's how precipitous our increase has been in the number of pension claimants, like people, the increase in those who are reliant on essentially who are economically inactive being pension recipients, right? And that's a lot of demographic aging in a short amount of time.
Yeah.
And that's across the West, happening across the West as well. It's not unique to UK.
Yeah. It's nice, isn't it? All of the shredding of all vestiges of support. Beautiful. Beautiful.
By the way, just so people who are unaware of in chat, that is a reference to the fact that as soon as the election was over, Otto English, the person who tweeted that out about shredding Labour Party's base of support, tweeted out the phrase, "It's nice, isn't it, the quiet," to describe the fact that the Labour Party were in government, there was no more Tories, because that is his entire conception of politics is red team good, blue team bad.
The reason they're not is because they haven't got the balls to do it. They have got a pretty sizable majority. They can do pretty much whatever they like, and they are choosing to do this. And my motto moving forward is if they want to act like Tories, they're going to get the Tory treatment. They're going to get both barrels of criticism, except they're going
Oh, so in the future they might get criticised by you. Cool.
See, if they're going to act like Tories by adhering to the things they said they were going to do before
Yeah.
the election, like I said, it says, well, they're choosing not to tax the rich. They've got a massive majority, and I'm just like, well, no, they're
gonna get the
sticking to their.
Yeah.
They're sticking to their manifesto commitments of not increasing taxation. Like they said they weren't going to do this.
Yep.
criticism from the people that tried to help them attain power in the first place, in the hope that they would be something different. And after what
Okay.
we've all endured for 14 years, I don't think there's anything
Let me just stop you there, Tansky. They're getting criticism from the people who elected them on the hope that they were going to be something better. So what did you voted for them just on inshallah? Was that your electoral strategy? Was just vote Labour and inshallah?
Vote.
And-
Well, look. Vote Labour and then hope for the best, maybe. Maybe a little
Yeah,
bit-
fingers crossed. Fingers
Hopefully,
crossed. Once we've
hopefully,
everything.
yeah. Hopefully, they were lying about the awful things they said they were going to do. Cool.
Yeah, it's
wrong with hope.
it's one thing to elect people who have policies that you like in their manifesto, and another thing to go, well, I know they don't have anything, but maybe this one time they might just do the things I want them to do in Magical Christmas Land.
Woo.
Thing as well is that
Hoping.
Oh, for fuck's sake! Go on.
thing is, even if they'd lost votes, even
Yeah.
if they'd lost votes to people who actually want to see progressive policy, who support the kind of things that were part of the Corbyn Manifesto or what the Greens ran on in 2024, they probably would have still won the election. Maybe not with a giant majority or a massive majority, as James O. Sensible would have called it. They would have still won the election and been in government to be able to enact policy.
Yeah.
But the threat electorally of losing seats to progressive voters, rather than all the progressive voters essentially giving them their votes completely unconditionally, would have meant they would have had to offer something.
Yeah.
They would have been forced to offer something so they wouldn't lose future votes if they failed on the promise of progressivism. But now they've realised that people will just vote for them regardless of how right-wing they are, because people have accepted that they have nowhere else to go, even though there is plenty of places for them to go. So they have no reason to court your vote anymore. They're losing votes to reform now. And so, well, yeah, of course they're going to try and out-reform reform. That's where they think their electoral cohort is going to be in future, because the existing cohort is full of people who will literally vote for them regardless of how many conservative policies they do and or promise to do.
Yeah.
Whereas if there was, instead of 40 seats with the Greens in second, there were 100 seats with the Greens in second, or 50 with Greens, 20 with Workers' Party, some with the Lib Dems, then they would have loads of threats to their majority coming from the left and the right. And currently, it's all coming from the right. So they have no reason to court your vote, Supertanskii. And this was exactly what I said before the election, and I've been proven right.
That maybe they could retrain the rubber sniffing dogs once they've stopped the votes to sniff out fraud from disabled people. Have they considered that? Because those jobs, you wouldn't want to sack those dogs. They're specially trained.
That this lot were going to be different. That hope was pretty much all we were clinging on to after years of corruption, misery, and punishing attitudes towards the poorest people in society.
Okay, Supertanskii. Did you consider, why did you not buy him a ticket to the Arsenal? Because honestly, if you'd have bought him a special corporate box at the Arsenal, you might have gotten a policy or two. But you didn't. And that's your problem. That's your fault. You knew what to do. You knew he was corrupt as fuck.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, they didn't know. They refused to listen to criticism from our side about the internal machinations of the Labour Party, because they refused to believe that the people who they thought were the good guys would be like that. So they blinkered out all criticism of the Politburo and what was happening behind the scenes with McSweeney and shit, because they were too focused on Tories bad. They couldn't accept that there was anything wrong with the Labour because they were the opposition that they needed. And it's sad, because if they'd have paid attention, they would have known. What this reminds me of, actually... Sorry.
Well, I was just going to say, some of them did notice, though, and rather than taking that on board and heeding that warning, they went, oh, you're just obsessed with Corbyn. Jam man bad.
It's true that they'd say that. You know what this reminds me of? This reminds me of that lady who went viral on Question Time in 2016, who voted for the Conservatives in the 2015 election and started crying in the audience. Legitimately, she was very upset because the welfare bill from 2016 that Labour should have voted against and didn't took away her child tax credit, and she relied on that to pay for her kids' food. And she was told by the Conservatives they wouldn't cut it, and then they cut it. And she was like, I trusted you and you lied to me, and now I won't be able to deal with my kids. And this is obviously heart-wrenching. And this led to a very viral moment, which has spawned a litany of memes, which was that somebody tweeted out the phrase, the very now infinitely famous phrase, I didn't think the leopards would eat my face, said the woman who voted for the Leopards Eating People's Faces party. This is exactly the same thing, but from the other side. So I didn't think the disability cutting party would cut disability benefits.
Yeah. To the point where now there's literally a thing I watch regularly with Christy, which is, it's from America, but it's called like Dark Brandon or some dumb shit. Anyway, and they have a bit on there called the Leopards Eating Faces party, and it's literally an animated leopard responding to stuff. And it's the joke is basically based off that meme, right? That it's the leopard that's going to eat your face. But it was the anti-Semites, like you and I, that warned them, so they couldn't listen to us because Jam Man bad. If you remember, we literally Hitler. We're obsessed with literally Hitler. That is a joke.
Also want to make it clear that a big part of what helped the last government get elected was not only grassroots support from not only independent voices online, but also tactical vote campaigns. That tactical vote campaign put them there. That tactical vote campaign can get them the fuck out again. They are alienating their core base. This is akin to, I don't know, the Tories offering out free joints. It is absurd behaviour from a Labour government. And there is obviously no way...
And it is like that, because the Tories would not react well to that, because they prefer lines of coke, of course.
That's true, definitely.
Usually off a rent boy's arse or something, if they can.
Yeah. I mean, I hate to repeat myself, but this is exactly why I told people not to tactically vote. Because tactical voting is why they are doing right-wing policies that disenfranchise their base. Because the tactical vote campaign was done by people who voted for whoever they thought they should vote for to get the Tories out, rather than the merits of policy. And people on the right do want to vote on the merits of policy if they want to be courted by the Labour Party. So they had no reason at all to offer any progressive policy to anybody, because their vote was decided by what StopTheTories.Vote told them, rather than anything about what Keir Starmer said or did. You know?
Yeah.
Or what they promised in the manifesto.
But we got the Tories out. We did, honest.
I think it's actually, I remember like with the whole leadership debates, I think it was really crazy how little Keir Starmer could say in the space of like an hour or two, and how the entire country just ran with that. Yeah. I mean, like, he basically sold them nothing and they accepted it.
Yeah, because the adults are back in the room. The adults are back in the room. Just vibes and vibes.
Like, Ash Sarkar called out Darren Jones directly to his face and said, your manifesto is fucking empty because you know that you can just say whatever you need to do to get you over the line, and then you have free reign to do whatever you want when you're in government, and just say, oh, we found this mess, let's just do it. And she was just fucking right. And Darren Jones was shaking his head, and he fucking knew that was the plan all along, which was just get elected off of nothing, off of vibes, and then have free reign to again, just rip up councils, abolish NHS England, completely overhaul the welfare system with zero manifesto pledge to do any of these things, regardless of whether there were merits or not.
Yeah.
In hell that I will ever support the most vulnerable people in society being played off against each other. Not only that, another slow clap for Labour comms, because they've not even released an impact assessment. That's going to be in the spring statement, which is another week away, which means another week of rampant speculation and people not entirely knowing how this is going to affect them personally. Well done. Honestly, well done. You've only had, 14 years to prepare for power. People are not knowing how this is actually going to affect them.
I was gonna go fucking crazy.
It is mental. We did literally tell you they had no fucking plan.
Yes, the reason that they have no plan, Supertanskii, is because they first of all, they've not been in charge of the government they've not been in charge of the opposition for a large part of the time when they should have been in opposition, because Jeremy Corbyn's actual progressive side of the party were in charge for 4 years. Because
Because
in
of
the time they've been
it's called the Fourth Reich, please.
It's true. But in the time when they were in opposition, from 2019 until 2024, they spent their entire time trying to purge the left, inventing random things to do trot hunting by telling people that they should leave the party in a whole bloody televised press conference filmed by Sky and BBC and ITV and what have you, by expelling people from the party who'd been MPs since the 70s, by getting people removed from the positions to stand as MPs off of nebulous grounds like liking Nicola Sturgeon's tweets. Their obsession was with purging the left from not just the party, but from politics altogether. And you're here going, oh, they've got 14 years to do something. We should have fucking paid attention when the entire time in the opposition, they didn't fucking say anything about what they were going to do bloody in power. You're a political commentator. This is your fucking job.
True.
Right, they're sitting there online going, what does this mean? What does this mean? But people should be able to decipher how a government policy is going to affect them without being forced to pore over a green paper on the government website. It should be clear and it should be direct. If you're going to fuck someone hard up the arse, you better tell them how you're going to do it in advance. I don't just encourage people to flood the inboxes of their MPs. We're going to need some direct action on this. Even if they do U-turn on it, the damage is done because they've tried to do it. But sadly, I don't think they are going to U-turn, no. They've chosen who is going to take the hit. No, they think against all logic and sense that there's like an untapped pool of resources amongst, I don't know, the people that are caring unpaid for their loved ones, the people topping up their terribly low wages with universal credit, and the severely disabled. Yeah, they're just, you know, they're just a resource just waiting to be used as cheap labour by the billionaires that Labour is refusing to tax, aren't they? It makes zero sense politically and morally and economically. You could make tens of billions of pounds by putting a wealth tax on the richest people in this country, and that would
I actually think I'm going to have a heart attack. I genuinely, this is too much. There was a party at the election that said this, and you said, no, that's weird rubbish, you're a Tory enabler, piece of shit. This is where you ended up. To be fair to them, they've said all along, we're not going to do a wealth tax. We don't think that's right. And you voted for them, and now what, you're confused that they're not doing a fucking wealth tax?
Well, if I'm gonna olive branch here, maybe not Supertanskii, but people who are sympathetic with Supertanskii who might be watching this. If you agree with both me and with Kevin and with Supertanskii, and I'm assuming with Phil, who's also in the call as well, that we should be having a wealth tax on the billionaires and the multimillionaires, the super rich who have loads of asset wealth, then there is a party that's offering it. And there is a group within the party who are agitating to take Labour to task over this and try and win their supporters over to our side. We're called Greens Organised. We're starting up our campaign for the local elections this week. And if you are somebody who has been fell out of love with Labour, you were tricked by the narrative they push in opposition and voted tactically because you wanted to get the Tories out, and are incredibly disappointed with the Labour Party that is acting like the Conservative Party in red rosettes, there is another option. Hope does have a new home. Please join us at Greens Organised and help us try and actually have a real alternative for real hope and real change. This has definitely not been a party political broadcast.
Yes.
I think it's
20,000 people.
Also worth
Go on.
Sorry, I was gonna say, like, I think it's also worth pointing out that she does make one interesting point about like the damage already being done, because I think this is potentially going to be like a ripple effect for Labour if they did U-turn on this, because even with the Conservatives, there was a very common consensus amongst, you know, claimants of universal credit that there was some sort of fixture within the system that like people were specifically being targeted for certain things. And now we have a situation where the government is basically just outright said like, yeah, we're targeting you. And if they U-turn on that and something happens to somebody, that obviously doesn't go their way, they're going to feel like they've been secretly targeted. You know, you just like ruin trust in people.
The thing is, as well, it's like, if we're going to talk about, like, from, like, neutral, I'm going to put my neutral political commentator hat on. If we're going to talk about this from a communications perspective, right, is that just like the winter fuel means test, you know, in a year's time after the policy's been passed, just like they took the winter fuel payment away over this very cold winter that we just had, right, any member of the right-wing or even left-wing press or the centrist press, any point can go, here is the official statistics from the ONS that showed that there was X amount increase in health related or like cold related deaths amongst the elderly in the winter period, or there was this much increase in terms of disability of people who are disabled committing suicide. And you can just, that's a headline, and the Labour Party's dead, right? That headline is Labour Party are the granny killers. Again, and it wouldn't just be speculation, there would be at least circumstantial evidence to at least suggest that it was their fault. And that's the end of the party, right? It's wholesale terrible. It's also terrible at a time when politics is very zero sum. When you won't increase taxation, and then everyone thinks there's a fixed amount of money to be able to go around. Any cut that you make can be juxtaposed with any other spending you're doing, right? So we talk about Ukraine, which we both support the funding for, but it's unjustifiable when you're taking money away from the disabled. Loads of people go, you're taking money away from the disabled or the elderly or from the kids or from the military, and you're giving it to the migrants, right? You're spending on hotels. This zero-sum thinking is a consequence of only having a certain amount of money in the treasury and then cuts and increases going up and down in increasing amounts because of fiscal rules. It is a catastrophic failure in political communications that is fostering incredibly toxic dialogue as well. It's not just bad for Labour, it's bad for political discourse up and down the country.
Yeah.
Make people that are living with life-limiting conditions, that are scared and worried, fear that they're going to lose the lifelines that they rely on. It is despicable. In the run-up to this announcement, I had comments from people on my YouTube, on my other platforms, plenty of them, people that are worried, that are scared. My friend Graham, who runs Politics Social, had people saying that they had self-harmed as a consequence of the worry of this. There's also been reports of people that have taken their own lives. This is Jeremy Hunt style cruelty, unnecessary cruelty. As I said at the beginning, if they're going to act like Tories, they're going to get the Tory treatment because they are willfully alienating their voter base. I encourage people to vote tactically to get out the threat. I don't think it takes a lot of reminding for people to remember just how bad life was under the Conservatives. Now, just because
it
Labour...
hasn't fucking changed. Well, you don't need to remind people of how it is now. That's not remembering, that's just living.
I do think there's a serious risk that a lot of vulnerable people might escalate their own conditions in order to feel like they fit this means test. If someone does have mental conditions and then they then decide to escalate that with suicide attempts and self-harm,
I don't think
that could be a real risk.
That's undoubtedly a risk, but I think it's... I think more importantly... Well, not more importantly, because any attempt is obviously bad, but I think some people won't do it to escalate in order to try and fit in with some sort of DWP description of a thing. They'll just try and kill themselves because they see no hope at the end of the tunnel. Because literally the only thing that was keeping them alive was a thing that they're now being denied. So why bother?
I think it's so important that obviously people feel like they're being listened to and very like believed.
Yeah.
And
but that's already been destroyed. We've literally already had the fucking health minister say, "Oh well, they're just being diagnosed. They're being overdiagnosed." So basically, saying to people with potentially very severe mental health issues, "You're faking it. That you don't really have a problem." So not only are you faking it and you're a fucking fraud, but we're not going to give you any money in order to eat. People in that situation go over the edge. And they don't care, because just like with the Tories, they're more than happy for sick people to just fucking die, because they don't have to pay them any money then. And then they'll still turn up at the fucking Paralympics expecting not to get booed.
Oh God, I wish. Why? God, if only we had a Paralympics here, so I could watch fucking Keir Starmer or Rachel Reeves getting booed. Shit. Oh God, it'd be so cathartic.
Yeah.
Also, by the way, we've been going for over 4 hours now. So if you're enjoying the content, you want to keep us going, please consider giving me some money and giving Kevin some money, because we've been working very hard to give you incredibly high quality
Well,
reaction
I've said
content.
this before, and I'll say it again. This is harder than your 9 to 5. We deserve your money more than you do.
Exactly. The 3 hours a day. I mean, usually it's 3 hours a day of sitting on our ass in front of a microphone. This has been 4 whole hours, right? We've done a whole half a real work day. And if that isn't justification for us getting paid significantly more than the minimum wage, then I can't imagine what would be. And
Honestly,
I say significantly more than the minimum wage. I mean like £2,000 a year more than the minimum wage, but that's more than I've ever earned. So
well, all I'll say is people who worked in a coal mine have got it fucking easy. Super
yeah.
chats, dickheads.
And I'm doing my best to, help you get that bag for free. Not on my 9 to 5 clocked hours.
Yeah, true. Although,
So-
look, we've got a person inside the DWP. I'm expecting a pip kickback.
You're an insider.
Exactly.
Literally.
Have implemented a few good policies, have made a bit of an attempt before rowing back to tax, the richest people in this country. It does not make them immune from criticism. No government, no party is immune from criticism. I just didn't expect that 8 months in, before they have a chance to show the country that life can be improved, before people really start feeling the benefits and feeling a bit of hope, that they would choose to go.
The benefits of what? What are these benefits that were supposed to... Like, the fixing the foundations thing is not only annoying because it's repetitious and fucking dull, but also because it's bullshit. They aren't doing anything to fix foundations. At best, they're patching things up and, frankly, for the most part, tinkering at the fucking edges. Even without this, life wasn't going to improve. What fucking world are you living in?
And that's the thing, right? Is that even the things that I broadly agree with, right? So the three things I always bring up when people ask me, you can't hate everything that Labour has done. You must think there are some good things, right? There's planning reform, so we can try and get more houses built. It won't build all of the houses, and they are not building enough social housing. But the planning reform is good. The workers' rights bill is also good,
Yep.
which has essentially been forced from the trade unions.
Yeah.
And there is increased investment into the NHS, but a lot of that's just going on fucking private healthcare anyway, which West Streeting said he would do and is now doing, and won't necessarily bring down waiting lists anyway. But
And
the
also-
two best things, go for it, sorry.
I was just going to say, and Rwanda, even if it was done for dumb reasons, but yeah, it's still a good. It's a reversal of policy, but whatever.
Yeah, exactly. We've replaced it with the rubber, the dingy rubber sniffing dogs, right? Which is clearly the correct use of the anti-migrant policy, But the things like the two best things, which is the workers' rights bill and then the planning reform, it's all come out of Angela Rayner's office.
Yeah.
Like everything from every other office is just all being shit.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think it'll be good, especially if they are going to force more disabled people into work, that they are able to get sick pay from day one. I think that's important, because I think this kind of thing would only potentially work if employers are more accommodating. Because some companies are definitely way more accommodating than others.
Yeah.
Like in my office, we
that's the
go
thing.
above and beyond, but most offices probably don't bother.
Well, exactly. This is the thing. A flexible workforce needs, again, as with the pensioners, reciprocity. It can't just mean the worker has to bend over backwards and isn't even allowed to clock off. You can still just fucking hassle and annoy them off the job. And if they don't answer the phone, you can just fucking fire them. No, flexibility has to go both ways. Otherwise, it's not flexibility, it's subservience.
And
So
there definitely needs to be a big increase in work, because if we are going to have more employers taking on people with disabilities, then they have to sort of become more flexible and allow that to happen. Because otherwise what will happen is you don't want a situation where I think hundreds of disabled people in one town are all fighting for one disabled position in this job. Do you know what I mean? Everywhere needs to be on board.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So I just want to say thank you to Captain Coconut for the £2 Jeff Disposal income for now. I appreciate it. Thank you, Haya Sasha, for the 5 gifted. Thank you, Nicky Loughlin, for the 5 gifted. And thank you, Jack Meller, the Jack Meller.
The
for the
Jack
4.90
Meller.
alone.
Good lord.
With an excellent point. Supertanskii says, vote tactically. Hey, good thing Greens came in second in 40 seats and 8 into Labour majorities. Yeah, because if people wanted to vote tactically against Labour this time from a progressive perspective, that's now harder because people refused to vote for the Greens when you basically had a free vote to do so because Labour were getting nailed on to win the election last time round, right? If people had voted with their heart and voted for a real progressive party, there would have been 60, 70, 80 potential seats where Greens may potentially have been in second. I'm not saying there definitely would have been, but there was the scope for them to be there if people who wanted to vote Green just voted Green and Labour had won with a smaller majority. And if at the next election you're saying vote tactically against Labour, there would have been more scope for a progressive alternative. But that now does not exist because people like Supertanskii just voted Labour anyway, again, regardless of their policy perspectives and regardless of what the potential could be for a challenge against them in the future.
Yes. Thank you, Pete the Feet, for gifting a sub, and thank you, Sozzle Snipe with bits. I'll answer that question later because that's a bit of a silly one. But thank you. I appreciate it. And I'm on another hype train.
Ooh.
Yeah. That was quite a sexual noise. You made that unnecessarily horny. And
Sorry.
I appreciate that enormously.
Also, thank you. Also, Sarah Jessica Farter saying, you remember that tactical voting group that said vote Labour on every single seat? I mean, that was Best for Britain. It wasn't every single seat, but it was most seats. But the most galling thing about the Best for Britain tactical voting campaign, Best for Britain is funded by George Soros, by the way, which I think is quite funny. And also, ironically, that it was funded by George Soros to be anti-Brexit, and yet, in the last election, the tactical vote suggestion from Best for Britain in Scotland, in every single seat, was Labour, even SNP majorities. And the SNP are anti-Brexit explicitly, and Keir Starmer is missed to make Brexit work.
Yeah.
So it turns out, actually, the billionaires don't care about Brexit. They actually just care about the party that's going to be better for billionaires.
Yeah, but it did have a bit of a feel of only the Lib Dems can win here in every fucking seat. Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, again, just every single voter in Scotland who voted for the Labour Party instead of the SNP, I hope you're happy. But remember, read my lips. No austerity under Labour.
Yeah. His name is suspiciously like Anus.
Anus Sawa.
I'm just going to say that is true. Anyway, we are nearly through this. Good lord.
Can I just add one really quick thing?
For fuck's sake, go on.
Super quick. I saw a question before that was asking about the DDP being able to see bank accounts.
Yes.
They flirted with this idea years ago, like when I first started, and it never happened. And
without, you don't need to tell us your entire backstory or anything like that, or reveal details. But like, who was in government at the time when this happened?
Oh, the Tories.
Oh, it was Tory. Okay, yeah.
And then they flirted with the idea again, sort of in the middle of last year. And I think it was like potentially part of some future plans to look at fraud. But it is yet to still happen.
The return of the sausage.
But yeah, the original thought process was that we could crack down on people that weren't properly disclosing capital. Because the issue, I guess, with universal credit at the moment is if you don't tell us that you have capital, we don't know. So it's only if we find out later on, then there's repercussions. So they wanted to give us that access so that we could check, basically. It's yet to happen, but they have flirted with the idea recently, basically.
Fair enough, yeah. Well, actually, no, not fair enough. It's a disgusting concept, and anyone who puts that forward is a fucking monster.
Yes.
Yeah. Anyway.
Zero logical sense, and as I said, is frankly immoral. We've not had time for worker reform to kick in. We've not had time for the waiting list to reach a reasonable point. We've still not made enormous progress in terms of mental health, if any, broadly across the country in the grand scheme of things. So I don't know if they're sniffing the pens at number 10, or if they want to lose the next election before they've barely even started their first and only term if things carry on this way. But if they're not trying to destroy their core voter base, then they've got a pretty funny way of showing it at this point. Anyway, thank you for coming to my sweary TED Talk. Feels quite fitting that I'm going to be visiting France, the place where people, you know, wonder how you expect to change anything if you don't burn everything down. I just want anyone living with disability and mental health conditions to know that I'm on your side. I'm not on the side of those fucking clowns.
Okay, but I mean, you are paying membership dues to one of those sides, and it's not the disabled people.
I wonder, can we read the comments? I wonder what the comments are like. Wow, Jack Mellor with the 20 gift. That's incredibly generous of you. Thank you. I really appreciate
Is that the Jack Mellor? Good lord.
The Jack Mellor, yeah.
I'm not on benefits, never have been, and absolutely fuming at this. I can't even imagine the stress and worry. Yeah. Totally agree, totally deflated. We slip inexorably to the train crash of civil unrest. Good God. I knew it was coming. Yesterday I tried to find articles from a year ago. Rachel Voorhees. That's quite good. And Liz Kendall, where they were spelling out what they were going to do, but obviously searches are all being drowned out by current events. Well said, so depressing. I've spent several hours today coming to terms with the possibility that my life is over. Jesus. Never going to vote Labour ever again, or Tory reform, obviously. No more tactical voting. Just vote with my heart from now on.
And again, this is the person conned by what Supertanskii and co were trying to get them to do, right? This is somebody who just honestly believed that the influences that they followed would lead them down the right path, and they've been sold down the fucking river.
I'm just going to put vote green. Fuck it. I've cancelled my Lambda membership.
Great. Thank you, Pippa Tandy. I think that's with 20 Australian. I believe that's what $1 means. Thank you. I appreciate that. Maybe the last chance to speak about Palestine, everybody. Yeah, it's very, very true. Fuck Israel. Fuck Israel. Fuck everyone who supports Israel. Fuck Netanyahu. Sure. Fuck Keir Starmer. Fuck Joe Biden. Fuck Donald Trump. Fuck all of these motherfuckers. I hope they end up in The Hague where they belong.
True. They can chill out with Duterte.
True.